Okay, greetings from the Pompey Observatory. We have about 2 hours worth of clear skies if we are to believe the weather forecast, so I'm going to take advantage of that. First order of business is to get ready to capture the International Space Station transiting the hockey stick galaxy or the crowbar galaxy NGC4656. I'm waiting another minute or so to see Polaris before we get the scope moving. I have received requests to orient the display vertically as opposed to horizontally. Granted, we lose 2/3 of the screen, but I will oblige tonight and we will orient Seestar the way Seestar is intended to be oriented. As is my tradition, I start the night by going to Polaris. Alright, looks like we have Polaris. Time to go to wait for the International Space Station. Now I'm going to refrain from starting capture because that will take us through stacking, and I don't want to stack at this point. I just want to wait for the International Space Station. Elevation is good. We are at 18 or so degrees altitude. Okay, go to success, that's all I want. Let's go to stargazing and see what we can see. We are unlikely to see much. But we do have about a 14-minute wait. Good evening, Louis. ISS transition on the 20th. Is that a moon transit? Since we have a few minutes, let me go through the motions of aligning things here. I'm still waiting for the board for my 11-inch Celestron to come back, or for the new board to come. Hopefully that will fix it, and then we'll get back to imaging. What kind of telescope are you using to image the ISS? Good evening, New York Raider fan. Welcome to our show. We are live whenever the skies permit. You guys in Rochester are going to be overrun by people during the eclipse. I will be in Oswego, not too far from you, a couple hours, trying to stream live the eclipse. I'm trying to kill the next 5 minutes imaging the hockey stick galaxy. Since we have people from Rochester watching, they know hockey. I'm not going to call it crowbar. And then we're going to stop capturing and go to live mode to detect the International Space Station going through. Luis, you're touching a raw nerve here. Have you seen my series Objective 406, when I'm trying to bring a Meade LX 216-inch into life? They are good scopes, but they have some extremely annoying engineering features. Both have advantages and disadvantages. I find myself turning to both for different things. Earlier this evening, as in half an hour ago, to get to the moon and not waste any time, I pulled the DWARF and I was imaging the moon within a minute. Seestar would have not been able to find the moon during daylight. We have two galaxies here. New York Raider fan, if you have not seen my functional comparison of DWARF and Seestar, you may want to take a look at it and see what I observed between the two machines. I'll get you the link in just 1 second. Louis, what size aperture are we talking about for your LX200? Eight-inch meat for $700 is a very good value. You're going to have trouble finding an AutoStar 2. I have not been able to find them anywhere, new or used, for some reason. But there are Wi-Fi alternatives where you can emulate it on a desktop and control it that way. By the way, the only reason I'm stacking right now is to make sure that I have the hockey stick galaxy in the middle of the frame, and it is. And let's see if we can prove that. Yep, there it is. Smack in the middle. I don't know. Find out if your ETX 125 has an AutoStar or an AudioStar. You may want to go to Cloudy Nights and find out if somebody has answered that question already. Now it's going to be interesting if I stop capturing, if it'll leave those two circles there or not. We're exactly 5 minutes to the transit. Alright, I took it away, but we still have... okay, it's gone. Alright, we'll just wait for the transit. My big target tonight is going to be the eyes. NGC4438. It is part of Mercurian's chain, but it is a very beautiful galaxy, and I'm going to try to do justice by having it as my only target for the night until the clouds move in. Unfortunately, it's going to be well positioned relative to no, was there a Seestar update today? Everything else has been updating on me. On Monday, we will be 14 days, no, 21 days from the eclipse. Okay. Usually within 14 days of a big event, I turn updates off everything. computers, telescopes, phones, cameras, everything. The forecast right here for upstate New York, according to Astrospheric, is 2 hours of clear skies. That's it. We're exactly 2 minutes from the transit. Yes, good evening, Matthew. If you hurry up and go outside, the ISS should be streaming now. I expect it to go through in a minute, literally. There she is. There she is. Okay. All right, we just saw the International Space Station fly by. Now we're going to go and find the eyes galaxy. All right. Yes, this is our target. Let's go for it. So NGC4438 is part of Mercurian's chain. However, it is one of the more beautiful galaxies in that chain. Actually, it's the most beautiful galaxy in that chain. And I'm gonna aim for a full hour. You may notice that I do not have a charger or adapter connected to the Seestar, so the battery will be draining. That's again part of the exercise of cycling the battery every now and then. Don't plan to be up too late tonight. I have a long run tomorrow morning, bright and early. Louis, as you look at imaging the International Space Station, if you're trying to get pictures of the station itself, then you should be looking at shutter speeds of 1/2000th or 1/4000th of a second. And even then, it'll still be a bit blurry. You may have seen the introductory video on my channel, which is the Chinese space station transiting the moon. That was a good one to take. And that was with an 8-inch scope. In the past, whenever I imaged the Mercurian's chain, I would focus or center it on M86. But tonight we're centering on 4438. Now that Seestar is displayed vertically, that makes room for a live video camera here. Louis, back talking about the LX200, one of the engineering failings of Meade is the hard stops if the scope wraps more than, I think, 560 degrees, so it's a full turn and a half. And what they did not do is they did not put an on-off switch there in addition to the hard stops. Yeah. Matthew, as long as we have clear skies on the 8th of April, I am happy. The preparations that have gone into the Oswego eclipse experience, the preparations have been just tremendous. We have had a fairly mild winter so far. Louis, does it come with a tripod or without a tripod? Okay. I have been using an 8-inch LX200 in Oswego that we put on a table, and it is fairly sturdy, fairly stable. You can probably operate it without a tripod. Do you know if it is an LX200 ACF or GPS, or what 3 letters come after LX200? Okay, yeah, that's the one I've been working with. These are good scopes. Matthew, I did not get any images of the SAR activity. Louis, I just pushed a link to my testing of an LX200 GPS 8-inch Meade. You can take a quick look at it and see what I did with it on that day. We don't seem to be getting much showing yet. I've stacked 11 minutes. We just got our filter for the 16-inch scope, and I was able to take a couple of pictures on Tuesday of the sunspots. That was zoomed way in. I'm hoping that it'll allow us to look at the diamond ring during second and third contact of the moon to the sun. And then Bailey's beads also. So during the eclipse, as the moon slides over the sun, when the craters at the edge of the moon are still allowing some of the sun to go through, the edge of the moon will look like a necklace with beads formed by the craters. And then eventually it look like a diamond ring, and then all that is left will be the corona. And then it will repeat on the other side, 3.5 minutes later. So we're 15 minutes stacked, 1/4 of the way. Hopefully we'll start seeing more than just that little dot in there. NGC4438 should indeed be that big. Hello Night Waves. I'm going to give you a link that describes exactly what I do, and then I'll tell you what I do. I use an 8-inch Lenovo tablet for my to control the Seestar, and here it is. Connected with a USB cable to the laptop. I put the tablet in debug mode. If you have not transformed your tablet yet into developer mode, you basically go to under settings, you go to advanced settings and you look for the version number and you tap it 7 times and that enter you into developer mode. There you go to debug mode, and that allows you to mirror the screen from the tablet onto the computer by using screen copy, SCRCPY. Once I have it displayed on the computer, I use OBS Studio and then feed the stream into YouTube. Once you go through the motions for the first time, it will look overwhelming and intimidating, but then it becomes second nature. I do it routinely. I've also been able to stream 3 different telescopes at the same time, which is what I plan to do out of Oswego for the solar eclipse. Right now we're streaming 2 inputs. Yeah, when you try it, if you have any questions, please ask. Post your questions in the comments to any of the videos and I'll respond to you same day. YouTube by policy allows only 1 live stream per channel. I discovered that there is a loophole which says you can have 1 live stream and 1 webcam, and I convinced it that my webcam is via a USB cable coming from a 16-inch telescope, so that's how I'm able to do 2 streams, one as a webcam and the other as a stream. And the plan for Oswego is to have the Seestar live all day, tracking the sun from probably go live around 9 a.m. I'm hoping that we will have enough sunspots to make it worthwhile. And that'll be streamed as a webcam, so that'll be one unedited, undirected, and probably the only audio into that stream will be the ambient noise of 270 people wondering where the food truck is stuck on the highway. And then the second stream will be directed, managed, commented with a combination of the Lunt 50, the DWARF 2, and the 16-inch scope. I tried leaving it out for 8 hours in the sun, and it did not have overheating problems. But you're giving me ideas here to put a fan to blow some air past the three telescopes. Last time I had it out for 8 hours, it was last Tuesday, and the temperature was 72 here. So we'll see. Heat shield is gonna complicate matters. Let me show you what I plan to do. Stand by. Hold on 1 second, we're coming here. Okay, this is the platform on top of which I plan to place the three telescopes. They're going to be, DWARF will be right here, Seestar will be right there, and the Lunt 50 will be right here. On Tuesday I pruned the vine so it will not be in the way. I also melted all the snow. That picture was taken a little bit earlier. And I'm able to fasten the telescopes through the steel beams. And this way they'll be out of the way. Where you see the snow shoveled is where I will have my table. So the cables will drop directly onto the table to the laptop. So I will be in the shade. Given that we expect 270 people, that's why I'm putting the scopes out of the way so they will not be tripping all over them. I don't know that the heat shield is going to be practical up there. Maybe a fan next to them blowing air across them would not be a bad idea. It has been a logistics nightmare. If I had been alone there, I would have other ideas on how to do things. But given a very large number of kids, I convinced the organizers to ask people to leave their dogs at home. I did not need one more uncertainty. I'm starting to see some of the dust around the nucleus of NGC4438. We're almost 24 minutes in. Louis, the good news is we have a 52% chance of cloud that day. So there is always a possibility that we'll end up with a NASA feed and lots of tacos left over because we're getting a taco truck to feed the masses. Yeah, I had imaged Mercurian's chain many times before, but never spent enough time to get the eyes. So yeah, it's going to be a while. I don't know at this point if I should have left the light pollution filter off or turned it on. Right now we are blocking the infrared. Yeah, April 8 is going to be fun, if nothing else, the logistical challenges. With 270 people taking selfies of themselves with the sun and trying to send them over Wi-Fi, I computed that there will not be enough bandwidth left for my streams. So convinced the university to shut down Wi-Fi that day and to fence 15 megabits per second for me over their main network. So we can have 2, possibly 3 streams unimpeded going out. Yeah, we have already done 3 tests. Next Tuesday we have another full dress rehearsal with all 4 telescopes going live. As long as it's not raining, even if it's cloudy, it doesn't matter. I plan to go with a full dress rehearsal and see what else breaks. One big surprise that I had last Friday during the dress rehearsal was the humidity on the roof of the building. First thing in the morning when I tried to set up, it was draining off the roof as if it had been raining. And that forced me to relocate the table and the equipment. And that created a different logistical nightmare because I would have liked to be right next to the building, but it's out of the question now. In addition to all the telescopes, right now DWARF is a 1-inch scope, Seestar is a 2-inch scope. Both will be covering the sun in its entirety live the entire time. Lunt is a hydrogen alpha scope looking at prominences, filaments and other fun stuff on the surface and beyond. And then the 16-inch scope showing close-ups of the sunspots, if there are any. And then we have 3 visual scopes. One of them is the mid 8-inch for people to come and look at the sunspots, just to give them something to be busy, to keep busy with. We plan to have 3 large screens, large monitors, so people can watch from a distance or close up what the scopes are showing. And we're going to have 3 classrooms open with monitors everywhere in them displaying the same thing, so people can go inside and sit when they are tired of standing outside in the sun. And did I mention unlimited coffee all day? I'm starting to see a semblance of the eye from here. One thing worth mentioning, and many of you may have heard me before, Comet 12P Pons-Brooks is going to be near the Sun during the eclipse. Experts are debating whether it be dark enough for us to see the comet or not. Right now, the best technical estimate is that it will be visible to the naked eye during the eclipse, just to the left of the Sun. I am extremely tempted to remove the solar filter, to take the solar filter off the Seestar and see if it will find the comet quickly enough to image it. We have all of 3 minutes, and ever since they added the horizontal calibration, it's taking a lot longer than that, so I will probably disable horizontal calibration. And I don't know that I have any option of taking darks before it gets dark, so we may have to spend that time taking darks. Or the alternative may well be using the DWARF to find the comet. Good morning, Sydney. Long time no see. When are we going to collaborate to bring the Tarantula Nebula to the people in North America? Good evening, Minnesota. Good evening, Bill. If you're just joining us, you missed the opener of the show, namely the International Space Station transiting the Hockey Stick Nebula. It flew straight in the middle of it. And for the rest of the evening, I'm focused on the EYES galaxy, which is NGC4438 within Mercurian's chain. Up in the right corner is Messier 86. And we're talking about the solar eclipse and how we will have Mercury, Mars, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and then Venus, Mercury, and then Jupiter, Uranus, They will all be in a row close to the sun during the eclipse. And then to the left, not too far, will be comet 12P Pons-Brooks. And I'm debating at this point whether to use DWARF to go after the comet or the Seestar. Actually, let me see what the field of view is going to be between the two. Stand by while we do some math. Pons-Brooks will be 15 degrees away from the sun, so it's too far for even dwarf to have them in the same field of view. So right now the order is Mars and Saturn, and then Venus and Mercury, and then Jupiter and Uranus. Actually, Neptune is there as well. So it's going to be Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Venus, Sun and Moon, and then Mercury, Jupiter and Uranus. So that's every one of the planets will be there. All within 5, 10, all within 20 degrees of azimuth. New York Raider fan, you probably have an appreciation for the run on gas stations, fast food stores, and cell towers that will take place during the eclipse. I don't know that in particular gas stations and supermarkets and food stores and fast food restaurants, I don't know that they will be equipped to deal with the onslaught of people. We pride ourselves in upstate New York that we live within driving distance of a third of the population of Canada and a quarter of the population of the US. Just imagine taking these and moving them west by about an hour or 2 hours, because that's what's happening. The folks in Boston, New York City, and Washington DC and Philadelphia are very, very likely to be moving west en masse the morning of the 8th. And I don't know that our infrastructure is going to be equipped to deal with that. So being neither an optimist or a pessimist, I will be stocking up on power bars and bananas and coffee that will keep me going all day, even if the food truck is stuck on Route 481 and not able to make it to Oswego. NGC4438 is starting to show some character. Good morning, Mr. Sheikh from Mumbai. We do have a stove at Rice Creek, so there are microwaves and stoves and fridges. I'm mostly concerned about people who will decide that morning when they wake up which way they're going to drive and whereabouts on the highway they will pull over and take their cameras and solar eclipse glasses and sit there for an hour or two and then drive back. At least that's their ideal scenario. I don't know that there are any hotels left in Rochester or Buffalo or Oswego. Altamash, that's very nice. How big are the scopes? What kind of aperture will you be using? Did you guys see my pictures of Jupiter in broad daylight? This was taken at noon, literally, before my 11-inch died on me. That is the beauty of a nicely polar aligned scope, and you tell it to go to Jupiter in the middle of the day and it finds Jupiter on the first go. This was a stack of 200 frames. And I think this may have been the red spot right there. Not too red, but or maybe not. An 8-inch Dobsonian will be very, very nice for visual observing. That afternoon, after I found Jupiter at noon, I wanted to see which stars I can see in broad daylight, and I was surprised that pretty much any star with a magnitude less than 2, I was able to find it and view it. Everything from Betelgeuse to Sirius to Capella, they were all visible during the day. A long time ago, I was able to capture the International Space Station during the day. And that was not a matter of luck. It was a well-aligned scope. I used to have an 8-inch Celestron on a CGEM mount, CGEM2 mount. CGEM, I believe, stands for Celestron German Equatorial Mount. That mount was extremely accurate. Once it was aligned, it will go to any target to within literally arc seconds. The target will just come screeching to the middle of the screen. Yeah, 10mm eye on an 8-inch will get you a nice view of Jupiter. Do you worry about light pollution in Mumbai, or should not matter for planetary observing? NGC604, I have not done it yet. Let me make a note. Okay, I found my footage of the International Space Station during daytime. Here it comes. Obviously, we did not have much fidelity or quality, but there it was. Last Monday, Crew 8 launched from Kennedy Space Center towards the International Space Station, and it was expected to dock on Tuesday morning at around 4 a.m. right over central New York. So I did a dry run the day before to make sure I can capture the docking on my 11-inch scope. And when I turned the scope on, nothing turned on. That's when I knew that I had blown a board. I don't know if I would have been able to see the crew capsule. It is about magnitude 6, so it should be visible to the naked eye. Certainly visible to a 16-inch scope, to an 11-inch scope, but it was not to be. I'm eagerly awaiting the testing on the 16-inch. I was able to capture the sun and the sunspots on it earlier this week on Wednesday, 2 days ago. And I should be testing it at night as soon as we have the eclipse out of the way. That should give a field of view which is half of what the 11-inch gives, which means the International Space Station will be twice as big. We'll see if that will allow us to see the two trailing capsules. Right now there are two pieces of hardware. One is a resupply ship and one is the crew capsule that are orbiting with the International Space Station. Bill, unfortunately, NGC604 will not be visible from here till mid-June, but I'll make a note to come back to it in 3 months. It's only 1 minute by 1 minute, 1 arc minute by 1 arc minute, so it's going to look tiny on Seestar. But it may be worth imaging with the big rig if I have it fixed. The board from the UK arrived to Syracuse today, so I should be receiving it tomorrow and probably spend the weekend installing it. You may have noticed the absence of any field rotation, and we have been imaging for 50 minutes now, and the reason being the target is at exactly 90 degrees azimuth, which is an ideal place for it to be, and it's only 24 degrees altitude. Again, this is the ideal position to avoid field rotation with an Alt-Az mount. We should be good for another hour before we see any field rotation here. And according to Astrospheric, we have another half an hour before the clouds move in. So we're going to stay on the ice. An hour and a half may not be enough. When we revisit it at the next opportunity, I will probably turn the filter on, light pollution, and let infrared through. See if that makes any difference. Bill, you may or may not remember that I have a mountain behind me which shields me from the light pollution from Syracuse, but that limits my my field of view, if you will, to just about 200 degrees from due north to due south all the way through the east, and you can probably add about 10 degrees on each side. So we go from 350 through, that's azimuth, through 0, 90, 180 to just about 200. That's the limit. Anything in the west, southwest and northwest is out for me. but at least all the activity starts in the east anyway. So anything that rises from the east till it reaches meridian, I'm good with it. I've been making a list of pretty DSO targets to go after whenever I am not imaging Hoy's targets. Good evening, Mark. Mark, I always wear gloves, and the reason goes back to my childhood when I put both hands on the exhaust of a wood stove and burned them really bad, and my hands were in white gloves for the longest time, and I may have been 2 or 3 years old at the time. And ever since then, I try to keep my hands clean. I don't like touching anything without having gloves on. But I will be getting a press drill vise to mount on my press to avoid having that incident ever again. I never knew that that's what those vices belong to. I've had one for a while and I only use it to mount the dwarf out of my window. Well, I had an opportunity a few years back to visit the observatory on top of the mountain in Maui. That's 12,000 feet up maybe. The glass mirror is 30 feet in diameter, and it has 256 plungers under it, because glass that large and that heavy tends to bend. So at the start of an imaging session, they pointed to a star, and just like the James Webb Space Telescope had to align all mirrors against stars before it would start imaging, there is a supercomputer that drives those 256 plungers to push the glass in and out to get the best possible focus on a star before they start imaging. After the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster, NASA decided that every time a space shuttle is launched, during its very first orbit, it will fly over Maui so that that telescope can take pictures of the belly and verify that they did not lose any heat shield what you call them, tiles, heat shield tiles. So I saw that telescope, and just the scope, the way they carried a 30-foot diameter lens, or mirror I should say, a 10-meter mirror, up the mountain to drop it in the building and then build the building on top of it, was just an engineering marvel. And yeah, that's on top of a mountain, all right. We're starting to see the dust around the eyes. Have you been up that road, Bill? Yes, it is dirt all the way to the top. We were required to stop halfway at a restaurant for lunch to avoid altitude sickness. They did not want us going from sea level all the way to the top in one go. New York Raider fan, I don't know if you're still on. Somebody found a 30-foot telescope in a barn near Keuka Lake, and we have been trying to get our hands on it or help them restore it or do something with it. But no idea how old it is and how long it has been there and whether the barn was the observatory or not. It's just like people finding old cars in barns. They found a 30-foot telescope, the length of the scope, not the aperture. Glider Rider, I believe it was a refractor. Yeah, the folks from the Syracuse Astronomical Society were contacted, and they were planning to go take a look at it, and I don't know much more about it other than it was in a barn overlooking Keuka Lake, one of the Finger Lakes. I have to believe there were a lot more Newtonians than Dobsonians at the time. That people found it easier to make lenses than reflective mirrors. If you go to Zillow and do a search for houses and put as a criterion, put the word observatory there, you'll be surprised how many places have personal observatories that they're trying to sell. When I get error messages, as long as the error message is star trails, we are good. When it starts giving error messages that not enough stars found, it means the clouds have put an end to our evening. So we're still good with star trails. The number of LEO satellites, keeping our fingers crossed. We have not had any ruin this picture yet tonight. When I'm taking raw images, I use Deep Sky Stacker and then process them with or use Auto Stacker, one or the other, and then process them with Regstack 6 or GIMP. But for Seestar and DWARF, I have promised myself to use the scopes, to use them as is and just take their output. The only post-processing I do to what comes out of Seestar is possibly a minimal amount of stretching. Other than that, I'm very happy with the images that come out of it. The big project that I'm doing in Oswego to restore their 16-inch scope, I'm trying to make that scope behave like Seestar in terms of the intelligence I'm adding to it. And for that, I plan to use Sharp Cap for both capture and stacking. Sharp Cap now has the ability to stack deep sky objects, and it's doing a reasonably good job, including the ability to do the auto stretching right there in Sharp Cap. Did you see how many telescopes there are on top of Maui? Let me see if I can pull it up. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the big one. 5, 6. That's another big one. 7, 8. And there are probably some more. The rumors of cloudy skies by 10 o'clock seem to have been greatly exaggerated. So keeping our fingers crossed that we will keep stacking to see how much more of the ice we will see. Thanks, David. So am I. Learned my lesson, and the cost was only 3 minor scratches. I already bought a drill press vise that I mounted on my drill press, and this way we will have positive control of anything that I'm machining from now on. David, have you decided if you're heading west for the solar eclipse or staying put in New Jersey? Did you see that, New York Raider fan? Ladies and gentlemen, I have not seen any improvement in the image in the past half hour. Looks like this is the best we're gonna get with Seestar of the eyes, which is not much. I just turned the audio back on. Lewis, can you confirm that there is no audio? It's showing here that there is audio. Okay, we'll go both ways. Okay, thanks, Bill. I was saying that I looked at the image the way it was half an hour ago, and I looked at it now, and they are identical. Absolutely no change. So we have reached saturation with the Seestar. I will revisit the eyes when my 11-inch is working. Looks like 2-inch aperture is not enough. Yeah, I turned it off for a little bit. The dogs were going a bit crazy. So I'm gonna call it a night, and we'll probably see you back tomorrow with a new target. Hopefully it will not be as bad as this one. In the meantime, I wish you all a good night, and so long from the Pompey Observatory.